Alright, so I have another tutorial for you today in Photoshop CS6, and what we're going to be doing is creating some 8-bit retro style cartoon faces, and it's a technique that you can use on almost any image. It's just a technique to try to make an image look like a Nintendo 8-bit version, like an old Atari game or something. So what you're looking at here is a bunch of monster faces that I drew up. And we're going to use one of these as our base to kind of trace over and turn into an 8-bit retro version. These faces, this PSD file is available in the description below, so if you want to download it and try this out yourself, feel free, have fun, and let's see if we can do this. Alright, so for the monster, I think I'm going to use this purple one in the upper right hand corner. So what I'm going to do is select that layer. I'm going to press Control A to select all, Control C to copy, Control N to open a new document. And when you open a new document after copying another layer, usually it will find the resolution and width and height right off the bat. So you can just press OK. And I'm going to press Control V to paste our monster face. Alright, so here's where, depending on the image you're using, you want to kind of play around with this next step. And what it is sizing it down to find a good balance of a little bit of pixelation, but still it's leaving a little bit of detail so you can see what you need to paint over. So the next step is I'm going to go to Image, Image Size, and I'm going to change the width and height to about, let's do 75 pixels. The next big thing here is down at the very bottom you have this drop down menu under Resample Image. So you want to make sure that these are checked, Scale Styles, Constrain Proportions, and then Resample Image. And under the Option drop down you want to select Nearest Neighbor. And what that's going to do is that's going to keep those hard corners and edges and keep a much more pixelated effect once this image gets sized down. So I'm going to press OK. And that sized it down a little bit, so let's scale it up with, or let's just zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. And you'll see it started to pixelate a little bit. So the next step for a cartoon style image is let's go ahead and draw in the black kind of line art of this image. So we're going to create a new layer above. And I'm using a tablet, but you can definitely use a mouse just with a steady hand. You can do the same effect. So the next step is to come over and use your pencil tool. And it's usually under the brush palette over here. And the pencil tool is pretty cool because you can actually, when you start drawing, it's just simply going to draw pixels. It's not going to anti-alias it or anything. So with your pencil tool selected, up here in the top left, you want to make sure that it's set to 1 pixel in size and that the hardness is set to 100%. And double check that opacity is set to 100% and mode is set to normal. So now we have this new layer, so let's go ahead and just trace over the black line art. So I'm going to trace over this eyeball and go real steady. Just like so. So you just trace right over it on a new layer. And I'm going to go ahead and get his nose. And since this is a very symmetrical monster face, I am just going to simply draw half and then duplicate it and flip it. So let's go ahead and draw the outline of the mouth and the teeth. The bottom teeth, bottom lip here. And now let me go ahead and toggle this layer off so we can see what we got. So as you can see, we have just basically drawn in the outline. So now you can go in and fill the rest of the black, those pixels that should be black, just like so. And I think we had a couple little, let's turn that layer back on. I'll turn the opacity down so you can see our line art a little bit better. And there were these kind of little lines coming up to give the look of some teeth. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in one of these pupils over here. And I'm going to go ahead and color in his nose. Alright, and you can see that this pencil tool is just making just black pixels. There's no anti-aliasing, nothing. So this is giving it that retro effect. So I'm going to create a new layer above our monster face and below our line art, and I'm going to turn the opacity back up on our monster layer. And on this new layer, we're going to start drawing in color. Now, kind of the trick to these 8-bit fonts is that they only used 32 or 64 colors in total. So we're going to try to mimic that and try to use as few colors as possible. So if you hold Alt on your keyboard, you get the color dropper selector. So let's go ahead and we're going to select kind of the mid range here, just like so, and you'll see that in our paint or our color palette that it selected that color. It's a very important shortcut when doing drawing or painting, is when you hold Alt, it will bring up that dropper. So let's go ahead and create a circle selection, an elliptical selection, to keep drawing inside the this monster face. So go up to your elliptical marquee tool, and up here at the top left, you want to have your tool set up the same way I do here. Very important that feather is 0. Make sure anti-alias is turned off, and style is normal, and you should be good. So I'm going to hold Shift, and from the upper left hand corner I'm just going to drag out a circle like so. Now I can just use my pencil tool and start drawing in on this layer. So first step is let's go ahead and fill this layer with the majority of the mid-range color here. So I pressed Control and Delete to fill this with the background color, and I'm going to set this back to the foreground and go ahead and leave that selection on. And let's go ahead and take a color swatch of the brightest pink we have here. So I'm holding Alt and I'm just simply clicking on the color I want. Let's bring our circle back up, and it had kind of a spherical shape, so I'm just going to kind of draw in, just paint in that top lightmost color. And you're probably going to get a few stray pixels over here, but we'll clean that up later. So just something kind of like so. It doesn't have to be precise. Let's hide that layer and let's find kind of the next shade. We're just going to pick maybe 4 colors. So you want to pick I'll open the color palette so you can see what we did. So our brightest color was up here somewhere. Now we want to color almost to the midway point. So let's select that, and let's keep painting on this next color. You don't have to be precise by any means. You can just kind of paint it on there, just like so. And you can definitely use a mouse. Just if you mess up, just Control Z to undo, and just keep a steady hand, and you can do this fairly simply. So let's find our darkest color now. So I'm going to press and hold Alt, and I'm going to select kind of a darker purple down here. So you can see my foreground color over here changed to that purple. Hit OK. Toggle my layer back on, and we're going to kind of paint on the darkest color on the bottom. And I'm just kind of drawing a kind of a circular or a crescent shape, just to kind of give the entire monster face a spherical look. And you can see we're getting there. Alright, so let's start painting the inside of the eyebrow, or let's get the teeth. So let's take a selection of the bottom teeth, And we'll just color those in. Just like so. And the top teeth were simply white, so I'm going to select white. And here I'll move this over so you can see our original up here. And I'm just going to paint in those upper teeth with my pencil tool. Now let's get this upper eyelid. So let's just kind of paint in around there. And the white of his eyeball. Just like that. And see how this pencil tool can just draws in pixels, which is very cool. Makes this very easy. So let's do another trick is to do kind of just subtle little highlights around parts of the line art. So I'm realizing I missed his bottom lip here a little bit, so I'm going to put some extra line work there. And then let's go ahead and take kind of let's toggle this off and take a selection of this hot pink color. So I should just open the color palette so you can see what I'm doing, because I'm holding Alt and pressing on the colors I want, but that's hard to see in a tutorial. So what you want to do is just kind of outline some of the edges of these lines here. See that? It just kind of gives it a little more depth. And let's take a swatch of this mid-range pink and kind of do the inside of the eyelid. That just gives it a little more depth. We'll take this same pink and just do around the iris a little bit, like so. And then let's go ahead and we'll take a swatch of these bottom teeth and kind of give it a little bit, mimic a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to select a swatch of it that's a little bit darker and just come around. See how we're just coming around the outline? And this will give it a little more depth. And same thing with the upper teeth. We'll do kind of a real light gray. And see how I'm just kind of just tracing around the black outline, but I'm not going completely into the fill. Alright, so it looks like the only problem I'm seeing is that the difference between these first two colors is pretty big. So let's find another tone in between there and draw another stripe. So let's kind of pick a color right there, and we'll kind of just draw in another stripe up here so it's not such a huge jump from the highlight to the next color. And we'll do one more. Kind of like so, to just make that gradient a little more gradual. So you can see we're getting there. Alright, so we have some stray pixels down here, so I'm going to go to select inverse, and I'm going to press delete a couple times to make sure that we got rid of all our stray pixels. Alright, it's looking pretty good. Now let's go ahead and create a new guide. View, new guide. The vertical, we're going to set that to 50%. And now what we want to do is we want to duplicate our color layer. So go ahead and just select half of your color, Control C, Control V, edit, transform, flip horizontal. Now select your arrow cursor and make sure auto select is off, and simply hold shift and drag it to the left until it lines up to where you want it. There we go. So we've duplicated the color. Press Control E to go ahead and merge those together. Now with the eyes, well, with the line art, let's just select that layer and press Control J to duplicate that layer. Edit, transform, flip horizontal, and just kind of drag that over until it fits. All right, I'm going to press Control E to merge my two line art half layers together. And the one kind of little detail you want to watch out for is if you look at his right eyeball, you can see how it's kind of cut out on the upper right. Well, imagine that's where the highlight is. So select the left pupil there with simply your rectangular marquee tool, and just simply go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And then the iris color behind it, let's go ahead and with our pencil tool, we're going to clean that up. So we're just going to kind of do that again. I'm going to had the wrong color, use white, and go ahead and draw the white of his eye back in. And then I'm going to take a selection of the hot pink and again kind of mimic his iris here. Just like so. And actually, I'm going to redo that because it looks like his pupil is over too far. So I'm going to draw in the white again first. And then rectangular marquee tool around that black line art. And I should just be able to take my arrow cursor and move it 1 pixel. There we go. Control D. Now let's draw pencil the iris back in. Just kind of around. I'm going to press Control semicolon to hide the guide. And I'm going to zoom out once so you can kind of see what's going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill the background color with the same as what we had on the original, just so we can see how it's looking. And I'm gonna go ahead and give it some margin around it. So I'm gonna go to Image, Canvas Size, I have dual monitors, so of course it was on the other monitor. And I'm going to turn the canvas size up to 150 pixels by 150 pixels. There you go. So now we have pretty much an 8-bit version of our monster face. So let's zoom out so you can just kind of see how it's looking. And there you go. I think that turned out pretty close. Like I said, everybody's is going to be different though. You can definitely just paint on the entire face. We did to save time, we duplicated half of the face and flipped it and used that method. But I kind of like this guy. So there you go. The big trick to this whole technique is to use the pencil tool and make sure your settings are either the same or very similar to my own here. And make sure that initial resize, when you scale the image down to trace over, you want to make sure you don't scale it too far to where you've cut the pixels down to very few and you can't see any detail, but you don't want it big enough to where it just looks like a blurry original of what you had. So that's kind of the big trick there. So play around with it, see what you can come up with, find some other pictures or cartoons that you've drawn, and just give this a go and see how it works out. And if you find something or you want to make a video response, definitely send it my way. Talk to me on Twitter, post whatever you make on my Facebook page. I love to see what you guys come up with. So there you go, and hope you dig it. And I forgot to draw in his little, there we go. Finish him off. All right, take care. Later.